Let us pray. O Holy One, greater than there can be none, freely and gladly do we offer up praise to you for this sun-bright day of solemn joy. Divine planning has caused this intersection of years of preparation, many and careful prayers, our deepest earthly wisdom, and your highest hopes for the sons and daughters of Appalachia and beyond, and brought to the time of testing and opportunity Lyle Dean Roelofs as president of Berea College and Lori Roelofs as the college's First Lady. Grant them, we pray, a closer walk with thee, for that is both the need of their lives and leadership and the sincere desire of their hearts. May this celebration and your presence in its midst equip and encourage them and all of us to continue to strive to become even more fully who and what we are conceived to be: Berea beloved, impartial in the readiness to love, immense in the ability to transform and to be transformed, imbued with alert appreciation, and in all matters of the day and the coming days, brave. Bless our Berea, we pray, and keep it ever and always your Berea also. In many names and beliefs we do pray. Hear them rise from our hearts and our lives just now. Hallelujah and amen. Amen. Please be seated.
Good morning. And welcome to everyone as we join together to celebrate Berea College and to inaugurate our 9th president, Lyle Roelofs. And as opportunity presents, for him to have time to serve also as professor of physics. My name is Eugene Lowe, and I'm standing in this morning for our board chair, David Shelton, and for our vice chair, Hal Moses, who are unable to be with us due to health and family matters. Both David and Hal are Berea graduates, so that I know that they are with us in spirit and via the internet webcast. So I hope is my good and beautiful wife. And you might understand why I would say that now on a Saturday morning when I'm not at home. I want to extend a very warm welcome to our guests and our delegates from over 50 colleges and universities this morning, and the several sitting presidents who have joined us for this very special occasion. I also want to extend a welcome to our guest speaker, Dr. Elaine Hansen, who will be introduced later in the program, and to our President Emeritus, Larry Shin. We are so glad to have Larry and Nancy coming back to Berea to be part of this wonderful celebration. And on behalf of the trustees, I want to express our appreciation to the faculty and the staff and the alumni and the friends of the college who have come to join us this morning. To our students here, thank you for joining us. I know you would be here even if you weren't getting convocation credit. And while you're here only for a few years as students, you will be Bereans for the rest of your lives. And it's a privilege and an honor for all of us as trustees to serve Berea, its people, and the ideals summarized in our great commitments. To be sure, today we are about a presidential inauguration. But this week we have been also devoted to a larger celebration of our Berea, who we are, where we have been, and where we are going as individuals in a continuous learning community. As the first interracial and coeducational college in the South, Berea has an extraordinary history and a responsibility going forward. It's the only college I know of that has claimed as its motto a phrase from the book of Acts: God has made of one blood all peoples of the earth. This inclusiveness is so important to Berea. The flags arrayed around the auditorium represent the states and the countries that our students represent. In all, I think according to the latest fact book, 46 states and more than 50 countries. So today, as we install Lyle Roelof as president, we celebrate the bold vision of our founder, John Fee, and the early leaders of this institution. We celebrate the combined work and accomplishments of generations of trustees, of faculty, of staff, of students, and of the leadership of past presidents. And we celebrate the generosity of generations of alumni, of trustees, of friends, without whom a tuition-free education at Berea would not be possible. Finally, we celebrate and commit ourselves to the hope and the promise represented by the college's great commitments and the current and future generations of Berea students. Like so many of you, I am proud to be called a Berean, if by adoption, and join with you and in this, our celebration of Berea. Thank you very much.
I've been associated with Berea College for over 40 years, both as a student and as a faculty member. So it is a pleasure and distinct honor for me, on behalf of the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Berea College, to greet you, Dr. Roelofs and Laurie, on this historic day of your inauguration as president and first family of Berea College. We also welcome Molly, your faithful companion and friend. I have observed the previous 4 presidents of Berea College deal with challenges ranging from the civil rights issues under President Hutchins' leadership to the global financial crisis faced by Dr. Shin. Each has led the college to meet the challenges of their time with courage, wisdom, and vision. We are confident, Dr. Roelofs, you will do the same. The Presidential Search Committee had their tremendous task to find a leader with a vision not only to carry out the great commitments of the college, but to interpret them in the context of a new and challenging time. They also sought an individual with proven leadership skills and a management style characterized by transparency, empowerment, respect, and a commitment to excellence. Also essential was a personal passion for and a commitment to the college's historic mission and values. Your performance as president this academic year has reassured us that these important criteria have been met. Not only have you demonstrated effective leadership, but you have done so in a humble, collegial way, showing concern for all members of our community and balancing the sometimes opposing forces of all of its constituents. As you have integrated into our community, you have honored your commitment to listen first, and you have been successful in your efforts to connect with each of us in meaningful ways. We appreciate your intelligence, good humor, collegiality, and commitment to excellence in all areas of the college's work. Together, we have significant challenges to face and opportunities to explore. We must not only support, but advance with vision our unique educational program centered on learning, labor, and service. We are charged to develop in our students the knowledge, perspectives, and commitment required to unleash their tremendous potential and passion. We must work together to equip them for productive, compassionate service to the region and beyond. The world needs what Berea students have to offer. We must work with you to nurture and preserve the spirit of Berea, a spirit marked by impartial love, acceptance, equality, tolerance, and hope. We must also continue to create meaningful ways to express Berea's inclusive Christian values. Finally, we are challenged by the broader issues and circumstances of our time, including economic and political uncertainties, and social issues of violence, equality, justice, peace, and dignity. Berea must continue to be bold in speaking out on these issues. We are confident, Dr. Roelofs, that you will guide Berea College to meet these and other challenges, and in doing so, make your own distinctive contribution. We fully support you and look forward to a productive, collegial partnership in fulfilling the mission of this great institution. We welcome you, Dr. Roelofs, as Berea College's 9th president.
Good morning. It is both my honor and privilege to introduce the great commitments of Berea College. Any celebration of our Berea should include a conversation about the college's great commitments, and so it is today. The great commitments give contemporary Bereans a clear sense of the way in which the college's founding values can be expressed in today's world. Written by Dean Lewis Smith in 1962, adopted by the Board of Trustees in 1969, revisited and affirmed in 1993, the Great Commitments represent a fundamental statement about the mission of Berea. I would now like to share with you the preamble to the Great Commitments. Berea College, founded by ardent abolitionists and radical reformers, continues today as an educational institution still firmly rooted in its historic purpose to promote the cause of Christ. Adherence to the college's scriptural foundation, God has made of one blood all peoples of the earth, shapes the college's culture and programs so that student and staff alike can work toward both personal goals and a vision of a world shaped by Christian values such as the power of love over hate, human dignity and equality, and peace with justice. This environment frees persons to be active learners, workers, and servers as members of the academic community and as citizens of the world. The Berea experience nurtures intellectual, physical, aesthetic, emotional, and spiritual potentials, and with those the power to make meaningful commitments and translate them into action. To achieve this purpose, Berea College commits itself to 8 truly important ends. I would like to invite 8 current and former members of the Berea College community to share these great commitments with all of us and to charge Dr. Roelofs with his responsibilities as president to see that we all continue to work toward the realization of these goals. Following me at the podium will be Mr. Silas House, National Endowment for the Humanities Chair in Appalachian Studies, Dr. John Carlevale, Associate Professor of Classical Languages and Literature and Chair of the Executive Council, Dr. Larry Shin, President Emeritus, Ms. Gail Wolford, Vice President for Labor and Student Life, Ms. Laura Tate, a member of the class of 2015 and Vice President of the Black Student Union, Dr. Bell Hooks, noted author and distinguished professor in residence in Appalachian Studies, Mr. Joe Salim II, a 2008 Berea College graduate and member of the Residential Life Collegium, and Ms. Jane Stevenson, founder of the New Opportunities School for Women and the former First Lady of Berea College. Silas.
The first great commitment of Berea College is to provide an educational opportunity primarily for students from Appalachia, black and white, who have great promise and limited economic resources. I encourage President Roelofs to always abide by this commitment that is so dear to my heart and to the hearts of so many Appalachians who have benefited from the education and fellowship they have received and will continue to receive at Berea College. Berea has always been a great light for the Appalachian people, and I trust that our new president will make sure that light keeps shining into every holler, spreading itself over every pasture, a light that must touch every hilltop rock, from the ones at our own pinnacles all the way to those of the Smokies, the Cumberlands, the Blue Ridge, and every magnificent one in between. That light has changed the lives of so many who only needed the opportunity offered to them, and they have taken that light and spread it to others, illuminating the power of education, compassion, equality, fairness, and fellowship, all things that bloom here and must continue to bloom here. I offer a charge for our new president to defend and preserve this way of life and the many ways of being and speaking that exist here, realizing always the complexity of this place and these people.
The second great commitment of Berea College is to provide an education of high quality with a liberal arts foundation and outlook. On a day rightly devoted to affirmation and to commitment, it seems only fair to remember that it is not certainties but questions that drive our common academic work, from the most elementary classroom exercise to the most esoteric scholarly crux. The more searching the questions we ask, and the less content we are with ready-made answers, the more we live up to the liberating potential of the liberal arts. And so what is true for students and for professors may sometimes even be true for presidents as well. When we feel challenged, unsettled, out on a limb, or even altogether at a loss, that moment may be the best proof we can have that we are really doing our jobs. Congratulations, President Roelofs, and good luck.
The third great commitment urges those who work and learn at Berea College, quote, to stimulate understandings of the Christian faith and its many expressions, and to emphasize the Christian ethic and the motive of service to others, end of quote. The spring of 2002, and after 5 years of study and campus conversations, the faculty and trustees at Berea College approved a statement of Berea's Christian identity that says this: Berea College has a particular Christian self-understanding that makes us stand apart from most other schools that call themselves Christian. Berea College's founder, John G. Fee, argued that the Christian gospel could be described best by the phrase impartial love, that welcomed black and white, men and women students in a day when such equality was not common in most Christian communities in Kentucky and, in fact, in much of the United States. As a non-sectarian college from its beginning, Berea College was rooted in a Christian spirituality that was egalitarian, socially provocative, and focused on serving black and white students and communities of Appalachia and beyond, end of quote. Thus, in its very founding, Berea College gave practical expression to its welcoming Christian faith and ethic of inclusion and service, especially to those on the margins of society. In 1993, the Berea faculty and trustees added a preamble to all the great commitments, part of which you've heard read earlier, quote, adherence to the college's scriptural foundation. God is made of one blood, all peoples of the earth, shapes the college's culture and programs so that students and staff alike can work toward both personal goals and a vision of a world shaped by Christian values, such as the power of love over hate, human dignity and equality, and peace with justice, end of quote. Thus, a twofold truth that presents itself today is that all 8 of the great commitments arise from Berea's inclusive Christian self-understanding. And yet, Berea's mission is unique only in the complex fusion of all 8 of the great commitments. So, Lyle, I commend to you this third great commitment that is one expression of Berea's inclusive Christian faith that, although it has been a subject of passionate debate throughout our whole history, has always undergirded all of the great commitments.
Mr. President, I rise to remind us all of Berea College's fourth great commitment: to provide for all students through the labor program experiences for learning and serving in community, and to demonstrate that labor, mental and manual, has dignity as well as utility. College students work. That's not news. But there is something truly noteworthy about it here, something that matters. Berea has always provided opportunities for students of need to work as a means of financial aid. And for well over 100 years, has required that all students participate in an educational program unifying the head, the heart, and the hands. Mr. President, on behalf of the college community, I charge and encourage you to embrace this singular commitment to the integration of learning, serving, and working, where work deepens and extends classroom learning, where work cultivates habits of contribution, where all work has dignity as well as utility, and where work teaches the practice of neighborhood in a globally interdependent world. That kind of educational vision is news, good news. Lyle, I pledge my support in our shared labors, and I wish you and Lori every success in your service to Berea.
The fifth great commitment is to assert the kinship of all people and to provide interracial education with a particular emphasis on understanding and equality among blacks and whites. Now, the term kinship reminds us of the college's motto: God has made of one blood all peoples of the earth. But the commitment goes further than the motto, specifying that the college provide an opportunity for people of different races to come together. This was the intention of John G. Fee at the foundation of this institution over 150 years ago. Now, this is more than mere desegregation. It will have to be supporting programs, curriculum, and organizations that promote understanding and equality among blacks and whites. In doing this, we can maintain our individual identities. We can and should acknowledge the differences between our cultures, but at the same time, we must seek ways to find common ground and to build bridges of understanding.
Commitment 6, to create a democratic community dedicated to education and equality for women and men. In the biblical book of Ecclesiastes, we are told 2 are better than 1, for if one falls down, the other can help them rise. This vision of mutuality and support is echoed in our 6th commitment. A democratic community encompasses all of us, not just trustees, administrators, professors, students, but all of us who labor here to make Berea College a humanizing, learning community that works. All of us, then, are to be accorded respect, rights, and privileges. To achieve this end, we must dare to oppose oppression and/or exploitative hierarchies. We must dare to fundamentally challenge structures of domination, especially the patriarchy that keeps us locked in a system of dysfunctional gender inequality. Our collective challenge, spearheaded by our new leader, Brother Lyle, is to rededicate our lives, our labor, to the mission of creating a just, democratic learning community, one that embraces women and men as equals at all levels. We are not called by this commitment to make women be new patriarchs. We know patriarchy has no gender. It hurts women and men. Rather, we are called to joyfully create and sustain a secure foundation for transformative, transgressive, democratic learning grounded in love that will empower us all, women and men, to be fully self-actualized, self-realized, whole and complete, able to work together in affirming mutual partnership.
Commitment 7, to maintain a residential campus and to encourage in all members of the community a way of life characterized by plain living, pride in labor well done, zest for learning, high personal standards, and concern for the welfare of others. As a former student and now a staff member in the Labor and Student Life Division, I can tell you that as an institution of transformative learning, we do not seclude that only to the classroom. A lot of that transformative learning happens on campus, in the residence halls, and during programs that occur in our Berea community. Lyle, knowing that you have a love for running and that I am a former Berea College track star, I felt that I could best express my charge to you as an analogy to which we both can easily relate. I see the Berea College community as a team, and each year we gain about 400 new members of that team in the form of freshmen, and each year we have different people at different skill levels. We have some distance runners, we have some sprinters, even some walkers, Lori, and some people who just watch everyone else run. But each member of our team has their own unique skill level and abilities. Likewise, we as an institution should take the members of our community and we should transform them like you would on a team into people who can run their race in life. I encourage you, Mr. President, to continue our mission to encourage all members of our community to have a way of life characterized by plain living, pride in their labor that is well done, a zest for learning, high personal standards, and a concern for the welfare of others, so that once they leave here, each and every student and each and every member of our community will be well equipped with what they need to run their race.
Dr. Roelofs, Berea friends, Berea College's 8th great commitment is a call to serve the Appalachian region primarily through education, but also by other appropriate services. Early in the history of Berea College, Berea sent wagons loaded with books to share with the people in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Classes were taught by professors here, and they went out into various parts of the region serving people through education. More recently, the college continues its commitment to service to the region through programs such as the Brushy Fork Institute, the CELTS program, Students for Appalachia, Gear Up, Project Neighborhood, Grow Appalachia, and so many more worthwhile endeavors. Berea College must continue to join its historic intellectual experience with service to the region through encouraging leadership, community development, civic participation, and raising awareness of environmental concerns in the region. Berea has never been afraid to speak out, to commit to change, while encouraging each graduate to experience the wider world, but never forgetting to serve also the needs of their home communities. When John and I were privileged to serve Berea College almost 30 years ago, we were welcomed and loved, as you and Laurie may already be experiencing. My family and I, and all of us at the New Opportunity School for Women, wish you every success in your service to Berea as the first family.
Good morning. In a minute, I'm going to ask you all to rise in the singing of the hymn, Let Us Build. But first, I have a few instructions about that. If you would first turn to the page titled Let Us Build in the program, you'll notice there are 5 stanzas of text. And here's the way we will deliver those stanzas. All of us, as a community, will sing together stanzas 1 and 4. The second stanza will be sung by women only, the third stanza by men only, and the choir will finish the piece at the very end in the 5th stanza. So 1 and 4, all of us as a community, 2 by the women, 3 by the men, and the choir will end. Let us all sing this wonderful new set of words by our own Dr. Edwin Broadhead, who has set it to the famous tune, Beach Spring.
Good morning. Of our speaker, our president says, she, quote, has in abundance the humanist's ability to create new meaning, to articulate deeper understanding, and to discern nuance. This is supported in her case by the gift of being able to always ask the right question at the right time. That, to me, being the hallmark of fullest mastery in the liberal arts, end quote. It is my honor to introduce today Dr. Elaine Tuttle Hansen, who currently serves as Executive Director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth. The center began when a 7th grade boy from Baltimore had exhausted all the options for math courses he could take at school by the time he was 13. A professor of psychology at Hopkins worked with the boy to arrange access to challenging math courses so he could continue to be challenged and to develop his academic talents. This professor and Johns Hopkins in 1979 created the Center for Talented Youth in order to recognize and develop the world's brightest minds. In 2012, the center's summer program served almost 10,000 students, and courses through CTY online totaled over 13,000 annual enrollments. Today, the CTY students hail from all neighborhoods and many nations, just like Berea students, and its alumni include the co-founder of Google, the CEO of Facebook, and leaders in the sciences, arts, government, and all professions. Dr. Hansen is the 3rd director of CTY, and when one examines her long and illustrious career, one realizes that she has devoted her calling to the education of bright young minds and the pursuit of academic excellence. From 2002 until 2011, she served as the 7th president of Bates College, where she worked to enhance open and intense intellectual inquiry, individualized student and faculty interactions in a residential setting, and a community unified by the ethical principles of integrity, egalitarianism, and social responsibility. Dr. Hansen also served as provost at Haverford College from 1995 until 2002 and professor of English there beginning in 1980. At Haverford, she was a colleague of a talented and committed professor of physics named Lyle Roelofs. Dr. Hansen is a specialist in Middle English literature and is the author of numerous scholarly articles and 3 books, and she has taught a wide variety of highly successful courses in Middle English literature and also in contemporary women's writing. She earned her AB with greatest distinction at Mount Holyoke College, her MA at the University of Minnesota, and her PhD at the University of Washington. Today, her address will focus on 2 main areas. First, the special importance of liberal arts colleges in general to the future of higher education and the need to have an inclusive national conversation about the purposes of higher education. Is it, for example, to make more money or to be a better citizen? Career or lifelong learning? She will highlight the special place of the small, residential, mission-driven, 4-year liberal arts college. That's right, places just like Berea. Second, she will focus on what makes Berea an enduring and endearing example of the good work of offering expertise and personal satisfaction on the one hand, and providing clear benefit and a sense of ethical worth to the community on the other. It is an honor to welcome to the podium Dr. Elaine Hansen.
Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction. I think I could just sit down, and you've basically heard the gist of my message today. But I'm so honored to be here that I'm going to talk to you anyway. It's a real privilege to join you for this uncommon and extraordinary moment in the life of a venerable and dynamic academic institution on the formal threshold of the 9th presidential era under the leadership of Lyle Roelofs. As Chad probably that led you to understand, I have spent what I will intentionally call the better part of my life, over 4 decades, on college and university campuses, studying, teaching, administering, and always, in all my roles, learning. I've been blessed to learn from a remarkable set of teachers, students, friends, and colleagues, and I am so pleased to count President Roelofs among the most generous of that generous cohort. As a thinker and a doer, Lyle has contributed to my education, just as he is beginning to teach and learn with you. A scientist by training, and if I may say so, a humanist by nature, in the richest sense of that term, Lyle marries discipline and creativity, action and thought, evidence and intuition. And this balance and integration of qualities, too often set in opposition to each other, is so vital not only to the continuing success of Berea, but also to the future well-being of American higher education. This time of internal transition for Berea coincides with a time of great transition, as we all know, in the external worlds that Berea must and does engage. And it can, in fact, under your new president's guidance, lead. For the broad realm of higher education, it is an unsettling time of flux and uncertainty, and if I may use such words on such a hopeful, joyous day, of anxiety and even danger. To explain where we see some of the gravest challenges ahead for academe, let me go back a little more than just 4 years ago to another new president's first address to a joint session of Congress on February 24th, 2009. It was then that President Obama announced the vision intended to change the landscape of higher education and the lives of countless individuals whose futures are at risk. By 2020, he proclaimed, America will once again have the highest proportion of college graduates in the world. College is loosely defined in this mandate: community college, 4-year school, vocational training, or an apprenticeship. So the president's pronouncement focuses welcome attention on the increasing importance of post-secondary education, no doubt. But why do I see it as dangerous? Because to implement such a broad and, I believe, critical set of aspirations, we have to have what we still have not had 4 years later, an informed and sustained national conversation not only about key educational issues of access, funding, technology, and quality, but also, and more fundamentally, and this is much harder than even those hard things, about purposes. Currently, there's no common understanding of why we need to provide higher education for more Americans, maybe even all Americans, and what a better system would achieve. Is the change to college for all about better jobs or happier lives? Do we want all high school students to go beyond to a higher education so that they can learn skills or gain wisdom, make money or serve others? Are we concerned with individual accomplishment and enrichment, or is this all about the commonweal or perhaps the nation's global competitiveness? Now, if your impulse is to say all of the above, you're of course anticipating my argument. Useful public discourse about education will require deep discussion of potentially conflicting and highly complex aims and objectives, One size will never fit all Americans. But reaching that deeper level is difficult when the dominant themes of what passes for educational policy focus on putatively quantifiable things like test scores, accountability, and cost. For now, the situation remains as Patricia Graham described it over 25 years ago in a remarkable essay entitled Schools: Cacophony About Practice, Silence About Purpose. As she argued then, we Americans, who are appropriately vociferous in our critiques of education generally, and the schools particularly, need to come to fundamental agreement about what we want our schools to do, unquote. If we do not share aims and objectives at some level, we can't figure out how to muster the collective will required to fix what is clearly broken in many parts of the educational system, let alone to prepare for the future, for problems we can't even see yet. Now, here comes the turn in my argument that I'm sure you were expecting. There is one sector of higher education today where we find both clarity of purpose and a reasonable consensus about what excellence in achieving those goals looks like: the small, residential, mission-driven four-year liberal arts college. By looking and listening to this powerful but often unheard or quickly dismissed voice, we can best see and achieve the most important and urgent aims of education. I'm going to return to that very broad claim again in closing. But now I want to focus first and foremost on a more specific argument. I want to suggest how and why the value proposition of Berea College in particular seems to me to represent a particularly meaningful and compelling instance of this larger proposition. I know that I am preaching to the choir, but on the grounds that ritual moments like this are intended to refresh and reinvigorate what we already know, I hope you will bear with me. So to advance my argument about Berea, the liberal arts model, and the quest for common purposes, I want to call upon an outstanding book published over a decade ago, but more relevant than ever today. Good Work is the name of the book, subtitled When Excellence and Ethics Meet, co-authored by Howard Gardner, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and William Damon. The main project of this book is not to define what college is or should be, but rather to deepen our understanding of work as a human experience, something that the authors contend psychology as a discipline has overlooked, but something that is, of course, fundamental and unique, in a way, to the vision of Berea College. The authors were particularly interested, indeed, in the kind of work that Berea students are especially prepared to do. And good work, by their definition, is work that is, on the one hand, of extremely high quality, demonstrating expertise and offering personal satisfaction, as well as material well-being. And work that is, on the other hand, and at the same time, useful and ethical, commonly understood to be morally responsible and beneficial to society. Good work, in their eyes, can be found in many different professions and occupations. It happens, as the adage says, when we do well and do good. It is also, however, a conversation about competing goals, as you can clearly see. So Gardner and his colleagues approached their project from the perspective of Harvard University faculty with a concern that many educators and parents in particular share now more than ever. Post-2008, work that feels good and satisfying to individuals, yet is respected by and useful to the community, is harder and harder to find in a time of rapid change and economic stress, when markets exert a dominant influence on everything. The technology of most kind of work is in constant flux, and commonly shared values in our polarized nation are harder and harder to define, let alone act on. To answer their question, what does it mean to carry out good work in a time of radical change? The authors chose first to study two groups of professionals whose work is highly influential and has been profoundly altered by the information revolution. Geneticists, who are dealing with massive new amounts and kinds of information about our biological selves, and journalists, whose original tools and methods are no longer used and who must adjust to a revolution in our thinking selves, in the way we all know and learn and access information. As Gardner and his colleagues conducted in-depth interviews with more than 100 members of each of these professions, they came to realize that the two professions differed not only in the obvious ways, but also, and more importantly, in terms of their alignment with social values. Excuse me. To oversimplify and overgeneralize, we might say that the geneticists in this study were happy and fulfilled because they believed that their demanding work was aligned with the perceived needs and values of their communities, and they felt respected and trusted. Geneticists interviewed said they led hectic lives, but for the most part were convinced that they were doing good work, enjoying the thrill of scientific discovery and feeling that science foregrounds a certain kind of rational thinking that is absent everywhere else and highly valued. The only potential disturbance in the field came from concerns about the new opportunities for great wealth now associated with genetic discovery, and various ethical concerns about the ownership and use of information about the private body. I'll touch again on that briefly in just a minute. Journalists were another story. Journalists studied in good work, by contrast, were found to be despondent for the most part, working in a misaligned domain in which they were often criticized internally and externally. Those interviewed said they valued truth and objectivity and fairness in principle, but they felt that their profession as a whole could not say it was living up to its own ethical standards. They complained about the lack of time to do good work in a field where information technology emphasizes speed over depth and reflection. And they lamented the dominance of the profit motive, as editors now have to consult the market researcher before deciding which stories to cover. And old virtues like proofreading, which was my first job out of college, simply are not affordable. Most newspapers don't bother to proofread, in case you hadn't noticed. So, good work, approached as requiring alignment as well as skill, is obviously not a static or easily regulated concept. Woe unto us if we happen to like to do something that no one values. In the years since this study was published, the geneticists' current concerns about the ethics of their work have certainly grown. And it's possible that a few journalists are finding ways to do good work. I don't know. I think it's time to redo the study. And I really wish we had more time today to talk about another book and that provides us with an interesting example, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is a gripping examination of the unforeseen ethical implications of very early genetic experiments conducted on an African-American woman at my now home institution, Johns Hopkins. Interestingly, the heroine of Henrietta Lacks' story today is arguably the journalist, the woman who wrote the book, Rebecca Skloot, who persisted in unearthing and telling this story despite the many difficulties she encountered. So that's for another talk and another day. Let me return to Gardner and his colleagues, who conclude their study by affirming that individuals who do good work in any profession or job represent the best hope for the future of the world. They call on us all to take the initiative, one by one, to realize this hope by focusing on what they term the 3 M's: mission, models, and mirror. Mission is self-explanatory to this audience. It requires acting out of a sense of moral identity and being true to oneself and to the highest ideals of one's profession. If the sense of calling degenerates, the authors warn, the moral identity slips away. Finding the second M, models, involves looking for others who realize the calling best. And it is incumbent upon leaders in any field to affirm the values of a domain so that others, especially young professionals, take heart. Finally, the third M, the mirror test, involves asking, how do I feel about myself when I look in the mirror? What would it be like to live in a world if everyone were behaving the way I am behaving right now? Good work, as a scholarly project, focuses mostly on individuals because the authors are interested in questions about personal identity. And they touch far too briefly, to my mind, on the role that institutions play in creating the conditions for good work. They do suggest that the strongest lever for good work resides in those organizations that already embody it. To my personal disappointment, however, they note only in passing the importance of educational institutions, and even then they single out the role of the graduate or professional school without mentioning undergraduate education. But if you remember my opening concern about the lack of a shared understanding of the purposes of higher education, you won't be surprised to hear that I propose developing the capacity for good work is, quite reasonably, a purpose we could all agree on. And if we did, then a highly useful next step would be to look to innovative residential four-year colleges like Berea or Haverford or Bates to see how it's done. This proposition isn't an easy sell. I've been peddling it for many years. Today, like journalists, professors, and everyone associated with liberal arts colleges are not aligned with dominant habits and beliefs. In fact, I would say that the very practices and principles that define the liberal arts college model intentionally challenge the pervasive climate of opinion on some key dimensions. And I'll just mention four of these. We call students to complexity, difficulty, and slowness in a world where we are conditioned to choose simple, easy, and fast. We ask students to cultivate over time the capacity to focus, to reflect, and we do so in a world of continuous partial inattention. We privilege production and participation, making and doing, as opposed to passive spectatorship and the busy work of consuming goods and services manufactured or displayed by others, which often leads to insatiable craving for more. Finally, we ask learners to grow in a community, a neighborhood, as someone said this morning, where emphasis is placed on sustaining friendship and human connections and seeing the self as part of something bigger. It is through these rare educational practices that liberal arts colleges succeed in producing good work and good workers. These practices are, I would argue, more replicable and forward-looking than we may realize. Today's liberal arts colleges graduates are the most well-prepared students to meet the world where it is going. And nowhere is this more visible than at Berea College. It has been wonderful to be here, even briefly, and to hear how profoundly you understand, share, and profess your clear and unique mission. And to just literally feel the institutional will here to serve the common good and give individuals the power to do good work. You pass the mirror test with the highest score, and so many of you are, and you all have in your new president a model to look to, a prototype, an exemplar, embodying the power and reach of this calling. So felicitations to all of you, most particularly to President Roelofs, to Lori, who shares and supports your ideals, and to all of you who are part of the Berea universe. Thank you again for letting me join in this celebration. I know you will cherish the purposes of this place and continue to embody in all its glory and complexity the possibility of good work. Thank you.
I needed that. What do we think about musicians at Berea College? Thank you, Dr. Hanson. This is the section of the program called Installation of the President. Professor Dr. Roelofs, will you join me at the podium? Lyle, this morning current and former members of the campus community have spoken to your responsibilities to uphold the great commitments of Berea College. These commitments are the fundamental expression of Berea's purpose and mission. Do you commit yourself to the service of Berea and these great commitments?
I do.
As president, you are the chief executive officer of the college. You are responsible for carrying out the policies and the mandates of the Board of Trustees, and in accordance therewith, are charged with the general supervision of all the interests of the college, and have special oversight of the various programs of instruction, all in furtherance of the college's mission and in service to our students and the diverse communities the college serves. Do you affirm your acceptance of these responsibilities and agree to discharge them to the best of your ability?
I will, with God's help.
In accord with the power vested in the Board of Trustees by the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I affirm your election by the Board of Trustees and do hereby install you as the 9th president of Berea College. I am joined now by the former chair of our board, Libby Culbreth, who is going to help us get Professor Dr. Roelofs dressed for his new part.
Lyle, on behalf of all the Berea community, it is my privilege to present to you this beautiful regalia in Berea blue. Lyle, this represents your commitment to serve all Bereans in the furtherance of Berea College's great commitments.
Thank you, Libby.
Okay, buddy.
Dr. Lowe gets to deliver the hat, and here is our president in Berea blue.
Lyle, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, it is my honor and privilege to present you with this medallion bearing the seal of the college and the words, "God has made of one blood all peoples of the earth." The chain on which the medallion hangs is inscribed with the names of Fee and your 8 predecessors as president. It is also inscribed with words representing each of the great commitments of the college. The medallion and the chain are symbols of your office and authority as president. They are a constant reminder of your link to Berea's founders and to those who have served before you. They are also a reminder of your obligations as the chief steward of the college and its mission. On behalf of the board, please accept our deepest congratulations and pledge to assist you and your wife, Lori, on this great journey.
Thank you for that. And you know that quite often you're the ones who pick up Mrs. Ruloffs and me if we need that kind of energy. So thank you all to Professors Bolster and Clavera and the many talented musicians for the beautiful and stirring music. And thanks to Marshall Tolliver for leading us into this place and welcoming me. Thanks to all the delegates of other wonderful colleges and universities. We are so honored by your presence and participation today. Thanks to two wonderful pastors, Reverend Gail Bowman and Reverend Kent Gilbert, who invite us into and usher us forth from the spiritual place that each of us honors. Thanks also to the members of Berea's Board of Trustees, led today by Trustee Eugene Lowe, representing our board chair, David Shelton, past chair, Elizabeth Calbreth. Jean, David, and Libby, along with Nancy Blair, were key players in the search committee that brought Lori and me to this place. And thanks to the esteemed members of our community here on the platform with me. Thanks as well to the members of the faculty and staff of Berea who are present, led by Academic Vice President and Dean of the Faculty, Chad Berry. Thanks to my longtime special friend and mentor, Elaine Hansen, whose remarks were so thoughtful, perfect, and eloquent for this situation. And finally, there was a very hard-working committee of Bereans who've labored tirelessly over the last several months to make this celebration both very special and very appropriate to this unique institution. They are listed in the program, and if you know and encounter any of them, be sure to add your thanks to mine. And in their exhaustion, a bracing hug might be appropriate too. Lori and I are also so happy that many family and friends, including our brothers and sisters and our mother, Cynthia Ruloffs, were able to join us for this celebration. And grandson Ben was here for the first bit. Welcome to all. I will, if I may, refer to all of us today as Bereans. Many of you have already embraced that identification. Those others of you here for the first time this weekend, we would like to include you too in our community from now on. You only need to imitate the first Bereans who are mentioned in the book of Acts and who were, quote, of more noble character than the Thessalonians, for they received the message with great eagerness. It's all about eagerness to learn. I will even be so bold as to address everyone today as beloved Bereans. That idea is due to our college chaplain, Gail Bowman, who since her arrival last summer has been calling us to beloved community, a sharing of what's most important in life, our intellects, our spiritual commitments, our respect and esteem for one another, and our willingness to do our utmost for this place. Deep caring, conviction, and commitment, in other words. It's an honor and a great responsibility to serve as president of this place that we all hold as our own. I accept this responsibility and the specific charges that come along with it gladly and with conviction. And I'm indebted to my colleagues who have read those commitments to us with elegance, with fervor, and with purpose. And I want to respond to them. Beloved Bereans and Professor Silas House, I accept the charge of the first great commitment to provide an educational opportunity primarily to students from Appalachia, black and white, who have great promise and limited resources. Our first task in this place is to educate and transform the young women and men who come to the college regardless of their need. I have come to appreciate, too, how the sense of our place is so fundamental to our commitment. Through traveling in Appalachia, Lori and I have been deeply blessed by getting ourselves into the hollers and the hilltops to recall your words, Silas. Learning that reverence for the places we inhabit and need to be stewards of is essential to the Berea learning experience. Ron Rash, the noted Appalachian author, in discussing the importance of place in Convo this week, reminded us of a quote from another fine writer, Eudora Welty, who said that, quote, "One place understood helps us understand all other places better." Beloved Bereans and Professor John Carlevale, I accept the charge of the second great commitment to provide an education of high quality with the liberal arts foundation and outlook. You are correct, John, to point out that the liberating potential of the liberal arts can be unsettling at times, radically so even. However, ultimately, this is a good kind of discomfort. It means we are open, we are learning, we're changing. I'm reminded of Bethany McLean, who as a young journalist was the first to unearth and expose the fraudulent dealings and deeply flawed leadership that eventually brought down the Enron Corporation. Bethany, who grew up in rural Minnesota, later credited her liberal arts education at Williams College for enabling her to see what other investors and analysts had overlooked. She said that her liberal arts education had prepared her, quote, not only to answer questions, but also to question answers. It's also significant that Ms. McLean majored in mathematics, but is pursuing a successful career in journalism. A liberal arts-founded education prepares you well for many careers, even, and this is probably fortunate for Ms. McLean, even for careers that do not yet exist. As we heard from Elaine Hansen, journalism may not exist much longer either. Beloved Bereans and President Emeritus Larry Shinn, I accept the charge of the third great commitment to stimulate understanding of the Christian faith and its many expressions, and to emphasize the Christian ethic and motive of service to others. We were founded by Reverend John G. Fee, an abolitionist preacher whose primary purpose was to advance the cause of Christ. So this third commitment, as pointed out by President Shinn, goes back to our very origin. The story of how John Fee got the idea to start a college, in addition to the number of churches he had planted in central Kentucky, is less often told today. Our third president, William Goodell Frost, an emeritus president himself at the time, delivered a Thanksgiving sermon in 1926 entitled 8 Berea Heroes, in which he shares the nugget of when and from whence came the idea of this college. You might be surprised to learn that way back in the 1850s, college students were already doing funded internships. And an Oberlin student named George Candy had received support from the American Missionary Association to come to work during the long winter break with John Fee, serving the small church Fee had founded, and in Fee's words, quote, to preach the gospel of impartial love in all this region. That was the job description. One afternoon, the two men were chopping wood in Fee's yard when they had a conversation, and the idea arose, quote, we ought to have a school here and educate not merely in the ordinary branches of learning, but in love as first in religion and justice as first in government. We must enlist young people. The idea, the great thought, as Frost terms it, had been born. Quote, a school can be a machine for propagating progressive ideas. So there you have it, the central connection between spiritual commitment and learning, right from the start, and due, not so surprisingly, as it turns out, to a student. Students, by the way, continue to contribute at Berea as full and active participants in our learning community. Beloved Bereans and Vice President of Labor and Student Life, Gail Walford, I accept the charge of the fourth great commitment to provide for all students through the labor program experiences for learning and serving in the community, and to demonstrate that all labor, mental and manual, has dignity as well as utility. Here I will share an anecdote from my very first visit to the campus when being interviewed as a finalist in the presidential search. A campus tour had taken me to Presser Hall, and as I walked through the building, a student pushing a cleaning cart emerged from a bathroom on the first floor. I wouldn't say he looked happy that he had just cleaned a bathroom, or that there wouldn't have been other things he would have liked to have been doing with his time, but in his bearing and demeanor, he exemplified that dignity of labor referred to in our fourth commitment. And I thought also in that moment of the utility of student labor, because if students take on most of the custodial work on campus, as they really do, the savings can be used to educate more students. So let me now publicly thank that student, whose identity I have not yet discovered, for contributing early and essentially to my deep understanding of Berea. And if I had to identify the moment when I first knew that I really wanted to come to Berea, that was it. Beloved Bereans and student Laura Tate, I accept the charge of Berea's fifth great commitment to assert the kinship of all people and to provide interracial education with a particular emphasis on understanding and equality among blacks and whites. Carter G. Woodson, Harvard PhD historian and long-serving faculty member at Howard University, is known for founding the academic discipline of African American Studies and for originating Negro History Week, which eventually evolved into Black History Month. Woodson graduated from Berea in 1903, 1 year before the Kentucky legislature's passage of the infamous Day Law, which mandated segregation of educational institutions in the state. The Day Law had been sponsored by Representative Carl Day after he visited Berea College and was disturbed to see black and white students learning together. Berea College challenged that law all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which upheld it 8-1 in 1909. That Berea decision followed the rule of separate but equal, decided years earlier in the landmark case of Plessy versus Ferguson. The dissenter in both cases, I'd like to note, was Justice John Marshall Harlan, a native of Boyle County here in Kentucky, who Justice Harlan studied at Centre College and Transylvania University. So I'm proud that both of those universities are represented among today's delegates. After that decision was rendered, the college had no recourse but to comply with the law, doing so by founding a separate institution called the Lincoln Institute near Louisville. The Day Law was not repealed effectively until 1950, after which the college began the work of reintegrating its student body. Earlier this spring, we dedicated our new Carter G. Woodson Center, where our founding commitment to interracial education is explored and furthered. Joining us at that dedication was Jesse Reeser Zander, now 84 years old, retired and living in Arizona, and Berea College's first African-American graduate after the end of the segregation era. Since Jesse's years at Berea, we have continued to build a diverse community that pursues education interracially, aims to enlarge everyone's understanding of culture and identity, and equips us to confront the persistent evils of discrimination and racism shoulder to shoulder. Beloved Bereans and bell hooks, I accept the charge of the sixth great commitment to create a democratic community dedicated to education and equality for women and men. Bell, I did not give you a title, so let's call you beloved Berean, gifted author and poet, and thoughtful feminist, and friend. Your words and our friendship, which has already resulted in so much sharing, will be a guide to me going forward in the daunting challenge of creating an institution that deserves to be called a democratic community dedicated equally to education and equality. In our emphasis on equality, as you point out, we must seek the mutuality in all our relationships and to value the aspects of gender relations that are complementary. Beloved Bereans and Joe Deuce Salim, I accept the charge, his nickname, I accept the charge of the seventh great commitment to maintain a residential campus and to encourage in all members of the community a way of life characterized by plain living, pride in labor well done, zest for learning, high personal standards, and concern for the welfare of others. Those are the nuts and bolts of our beloved community. Here is where we learn to care for one another, to find enjoyment in the simple pleasures of life, and to delight in learning, to care for our own physical well-being, the health of our community and region and planet, and to hold ourselves and one another to high and noble standards. Here is where we commit to sustainability in our personal lives, in our buildings, and in managing our little part of the planet, which includes not only a school, but a farm and a forest. Here is where we develop the understandings and commitments that enable us individually and as a community to provide leadership for our culture in the most critical task facing it in the 21st century. Beloved Bereans and founder of the New Opportunity School for Women, former First Lady Jane Stevenson, I accept the charge of the eighth great commitment to serve the Appalachian region primarily through education, but also by other appropriate services. And I thank you, Jane, for providing an example through the school and program you founded of that commitment of ours to serve disadvantaged populations in our region. As you pointed out in your charge, that great work continues here in so many ways today, providing benefits not only to the persons and communities served, but also, of course, to us, as we learn how to take on deep challenges in our region and as we experience the satisfaction of doing so. So thanks to all of you for those eloquent statements of charge. Addressing them is simultaneously a humbling and inspiring prospect. Some mischievous persons, noting that I am Berea's 9th president and that we have only 8 great commitments, have asked if I will be leading the college to commit to a 9th. That's tempting in a way because I have enjoyed so much our morning running and walking program together with students, faculty, staff, and some townsfolk. And the 5K race 2 mornings ago was a great success with over 150 participants. And our founders were all very hardy persons, traveling on horseback and on foot into the mountains, building the campus buildings you still see around you, even making and laying the bricks, cutting trees, sawing the wood. And wellness is just so significant to a happy and rewarding life. So with all that in mind, perhaps a commitment to running and fitness would be fitting, so to speak. But no, in fact, we don't need a 9th commitment, at least not that one. Joe Salim pointed out in his charge that wellness and sustainability, understood broadly, encompass learning to run and to finish strong in all the races you run. So you can count on me and Joe for reminders about that 7th grade commitment and to get out there on the road. The 7th grade commitment is about simple living, taking care of ourselves and our community, and thus encompasses a commitment to wellness and sustainability at all levels. So don't look for an immediate expansion of our great commitments, but as our speakers have pointed out, the commitments are an ongoing task of interpretation and understanding. We are not in the same place as this institution was 157 years ago, and we won't be in the same place a mere decade or 2 from now. With our great commitments as they are, though, Berea is and can continue to be a beloved community with great reach and impact. It can and should be a national model. Lori often says that every state should have a Berea. And that's really true. Hardly a day goes by that I don't see an article, a statement, or some commentary somewhere on the urgent national search for better ways to provide affordable higher education opportunities to all deserving young men and women. Here at Berea College, we have an answer to those questions, one that has been working well and successfully meeting challenges for a century and a half. So far, we are the only actual Berea, but as we continue to thrive and to celebrate our mission and identity, I'm convinced, and I want you to join me in that conviction, that we can be an example, a model to follow, a pattern that in being adapted with discretion to other circumstances can bring the same benefits of our Berea to many other people and many other places. That would be a wonderful thing to add to the legacy of our Berea. Berea College has transformed so many lives, and it will surely continue to do so. But we can dream bigger. Beloved Bereans, let's go forth in the conviction that in carrying out our mission and our great commitments, this little school in Kentucky can inspire transformation in all of higher education. Thank you. Thank you. And now, beloved Bereans, to put a real exclamation mark at the conclusion of those remarks, the combined choir will sing our alma mater, Berea Beloved, as we all continue to celebrate our unique community on this day together.
And actually, we would like you all to stand and join us on this one. In our transformed version of this historical, wonderful alma mater, Berea Beloved.
Friendships of one past century.
we come to a more contemplative place after that rousing new version, with a song as important to Appalachia and beyond as our alma mater is to Berea. Now is the Cool of the Day was written by Kentucky's own Jean Ritchie, born in 1922 in Viper, Kentucky, the youngest of 14 children. She played virtually every local venue and fair in the mountains, and as she acquired the name the Mother of Folk, she went on to perform at Carnegie Hall and the Royal Albert Hall. Many of us were joyful of her move to Berea recently after spending much of her life in Port Washington, New York. And I had a delightful visit with Jean and with Loyal Jones last August. This beautiful, haunting, yet prescriptive song will be performed today the way Jean often sang it, unaccompanied by our own Terry Thompson, Berea's Ann Ray Charitable Trust Administrator and Executive Assistant to the President. In addition to her administrative skills, Terry is an accomplished and very talented musician and singer with an advanced degree in vocal performance from the University of Kentucky. As Terry sings, though, you might listen to the pledge, really I think the liberal arts pledge, that Jean Ritchie's lyrics beseech: to keep the grasses green, to keep the waters clean, to feed my lambs, and to keep the people free. Terry.
My Lord, he said unto me, do you like my garden so fair? You may live in this garden if you keep the grasses green, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Then my Lord, he said unto me, do you like my garden so pure? You may live in this garden if you keep the waters clean, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. The earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day. Then my Lord, he said unto me, do you like my pasture so green? You may live in this garden if you will feed my lambs, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Then my Lord, he said unto me, do you like my garden so free? You may live in this garden if you keep the people free, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. The earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day.
Greetings, everyone. On behalf of the Student Government Association and the student body here at Berea College, It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this celebratory occasion. Today, we honor Dr. Lyle Roelofs, someone who has seamlessly grown to be an enthusiastic, collaborative, principled, and personable leader and friend in our community. We honor, and dare I say, officially welcome Dr. Roelofs, Mrs. Roelofs, and let's not forget their dog, Molly Roelofs, who, in less than a year, have grown to be dear friends and mentors to me and many other students. Whether it be helping students move into their dorm rooms at the beginning of the year, walking and running with us twice a week, eating weekly with students in food service, or attending numerous campus events, we all know from experience that the Roelofs are always ready to listen and lend a helping hand. It is safe to say that we are all proud to call Lyle Roelofs and Lori Roelofs our college president and first lady. And it is with deep humility, respect, and appreciation that I offer my sincerest congratulations. Of course, a ceremony such as this would not be complete without a community celebration and inflatables. Everyone is invited and encouraged to join us at the block party celebration in Boone Tavern and in College Square immediately following this ceremony, to partake in complimentary refreshments, music, dancing, games, and much more. I would like to add that the dignitaries behind me are especially welcomed and encouraged to jump on the inflatables. Although I might suggest you take off your robes first. We look forward to seeing everyone after the ceremony at College Square and Boone Tavern, where we as a community celebrate the timeless legacy of love that is our Berea. Thank you.
My friends, I bring you tidings of great joy. For if a minister has appeared at the end of a service, surely but a few words stand between you and lunch. As the unworthy present pastor of the place that John Fee founded and standing in his pulpit, I ask that you join me as we bless one another and receive God's blessing as our celebration continues. Impartial love, it seems to me, means that whether you are president, professor, pupil, paper pusher, or perpetually perplexed, God's grace is for you. You all are beloved of God. It seems to me that if God creates all of creation and brings to all of the people the gifts of that creation, then both Fee and physicists are our guide. It seems to me that we have to study and know our history and pay attention to our histology. We must pay attention to eternal truth and to sojourner truth. My friends, it is with that, with commitments from our past feeding our present, with foundation and with fire, with conviction for a future imbued with greater service, greater knowledge, greater love, greater justice, greater hope, greater community, and with beauty, wit, wonder, and insight, may you be blessed with the divine joy of the hard, good work of a worthy cause. And may great God Almighty grace, guard, and guide you and you, blessing both your trials, disturbing your peace, and lifting your hearts, now and always. And the people say, Amen. Go in peace. Our service is over.